please start with giving us a bit of your journey into this CA profession, from varsity to CTA, your articles, and the rest of the professional journey.
Okay, sure. I think I'm going to start backwards.
Okay.
So, those of you who do not know me, my name is Vincent Mohau. I'm a director partner at SNG GT. Do you know the company? I'm glad. On Monday last week, I was giving a guest lecture at UJ, and I asked if they know our firm, and Nico, they didn't. And he just told me now about the confusion. But I'm glad that you guys know about our firm, and I don't have to speak about it, and I'll speak about my own personal journey. So, I studied my undergrad at the University of Victoria. Second year was the worst year ever. Really, so congratulations to those of you who've made it to third year. I can only imagine. You remind me of me at that time, and I'll tell you why, Mosa. I hated management accounting. It just never made sense. Can you identify?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember when we wrote CVs. Do you still do that?
Yep.
Yeah. and then the first test came out. And then when the first test came out, they'd say the highest mark, and they'll say who it is, and they'll clap, and they say the lowest mark. Fortunately, they don't say who that is. And the lowest mark was 20%. That was me. Yeah, that was me. So you possibly sitting here thinking, can I amount to anything? Will it work? But it's resilience at the end of the day. And I realized I had to work hard. And after that test, I was devastated. And then you go and you write CED2, and you're still not going above that 50 mark. Still about 45, but it's improved from 20 at least. And you go into a year test, into the exam, with a year mark of under 50. And they still do the 50-50 split? Okay, that time is 50-50. So you'd imagine, how on earth, if I go in with a 40, am I ever going to get 60% at least, right? In order for me to pass. So I studied, I really did, but the most I thought I would get was a supplementary, right? At that stage, come on, I had not received a 50 at least during the year. How am I going to? But I loved the University of Victoria and how they prepare you for exams. Even if at that point I had not received, a 50 mark per se, right? The tests that we wrote during the year were the right level that when I get into the exam, I should at least do better. Needless to say, I get 65 for that exam as elated. I passed, right? And then you go into your third year and you're excited, and as you go into your third year, this is crunch year, and University of Victoria at the time required you to have an average of at least 55, right? To do CTA over a period of 1 year, right? Don't know what's the requirement now. How many? Oh, they took it up. Jeez. Imagine you actually get 55. So I didn't get 55, I got 53 average, so I could not do my CTA over 1 year. So then there was a Tutuka program, it was being introduced, it was a 2-year running at the time. This was in 2004. I heard about it, and they're sponsoring black students who basically going to study CTA, but you had to enroll either with Unisa or UKZN. And I enrolled with UKZN, and I went and I remember going to study there. And there's this thing about University of Victoria student and lecturers that if you don't do CTA with us, you're not going to pass board. Right?
That's true.
And I'm thinking, what are the chances? And I'm going to UKZN. Their pass rate wasn't even that phenomenal then, which made sense. You can't expect it to be because it was distance learning as well, right? They have high number of students, which they didn't, select based on a certain criteria to increase your chances of having higher number. But it's ultimately up to you. So I went and I studied there, and I did my CTA there, and I passed. I really did. And I remember I had distinction in my CTA for management accounting that I struggled with, right? But remember, for someone who's at UP and I have a distinction in management accounting at UKZN, right? Is it really, right? That's what you get. That's a perception that's out there. But thank goodness we had board exams that levels everyone. Doesn't matter where you go, right? And then the next year I went and I wrote board, and everyone else is looking at you. You know, there's lots of pressure. And also my friends who remained at UP and studied there, you know, like, I want to see if I'm going to pass, and also want to see if I'm going to pass and prove to myself that it didn't really matter. Yet I passed board one. I was excited. I joined KPMG at the time. I was selling my articles there. And I remember I was doing quite well. I really was. You know, I was performing quite well. And then in the second year, now we have to write board exams. And I mean, I passed APT. That's what you write before you go and write the final board two examination. Went to write board two examination. Results came out, and I failed. Very first time in my life. Oh, I remember that day so sad. I failed, and you see your name there, and it's a fail. I was devastated. Sure, not me, you know. It was written in the stars for me that, you know, I'll pass everything first time. But I did, and I'm glad that I did. Now I am. At that time, it's not pleasant. I don't understand it. But it did a lot to me. Number one, I had to go back and understand why I failed. So I failed because, yeah, my knowledge, I had given up on it. I had relied on the self-belief of intelligence, right? And I had forgotten that it doesn't just arrive, I had to work hard, right? So when I repeated, I remember, as devastating as it was, I had to repeat as if I was doing this the first time. I was telling Homelemo the other day that I was living in Campton Park at the time. I had to find some motivation, and the community library there didn't motivate me much. So I used to drive every day to Campton, Better Pretoria, 7 o'clock at the library. I'm there. And every time I see people like you there carry those accounting textbooks here, and I'm like, I just passed. I can't be next year and, you know, still repeating. So it went on, and I really studied very hard. And I remember I had taken a month's leave, and I had asked to be put off from certain clients because this mattered to me, and I had to pass. And I remember a week before the exam, I had studied so much, I knew, I believed everything I did, right? Because I was committed to it, right? And then I wondered, what is it they're going to ask me in that exam that I did not know? But you start becoming anxious, right? Start thinking, can it arrive? Can it arrive? And yes, and I went and I wrote and I passed. Fast forward, I found myself lecturing at the University of South Africa and lecturing auditing at CTA level. And if one thinks about it, I think me repeating part two at the time was mainly auditing paper. That really prepared me for the job. And I did quite well at the job, and I think most of you use the textbook I've co-authored, Auditing Fundamentals in South African Context. Just look for Vincent Mohau there. So yeah, but it's that journey that allowed me. And I believe if I was not given an opportunity to fail, can you believe that? Given an opportunity to fail, I would not have understood the subject matter. I would not be a partner at an audit firm. So it was part of the journey. And I look back and I realized what kept me is resilience. See, we have to bounce back, right? And what resilience means is that it doesn't mean the tough times that are going to come there, the test you're just going to pass. There will be setbacks. It's how you come out of it, right? How do you bounce back? So that's a very long journey. So that's my journey. Yeah.
Um, you want let's ask the question. Yes.
You mentioned that you are a partner, so how did you become a partner?
So there's a process, obviously. So the firm would have a promotion plan that exists. So you come in at a manager level, there's certain competencies that you must display. Technical competency, very important at a manager level. And then as you go into a senior manager level, technical competency still remains, but your business acumen then plays a role. And being able to bring business as well, being able to lead other people, being able to influence, being able to be decisive. So all those leadership skills come into it. And you go through assessment as well within the firm to see if, number one, would you be culture fit for the firm? And number two, would you be fit for that position? So the psychometric test that you actually do. So psychometric tests don't just end when you guys come to university or apply for your first job. Even at a different level, There's still those assessments that go in. But then the firm has programs as well that they put you in to equip you as well to rise to that. So that was part of the journey as well.
So I just want to know, does age really matters of you becoming a partner? Because so far there's knowledge that you need to be able to turn 15 years and also studying a bit hard after your master's or something. Is it just based on you adapting to it, and as you said, showing those leadership skills?
So it's an interesting one. If you think about a newly graduate or a newly qualified CA rather, on average they're about 25, 26 years, right? And then you can't immediately say, yeah, I've displayed it. I have to be a partner at this stage. So it's not so much of age, but it's experience, right? But you can't divorce experience from number of years. Don't want to say age, the number of years you have to spend in crafting yourself and gaining the relevant experience in the job. So there isn't a fixed number to say 15 years or so, but there'll be minimum number of years that over the years we believe for you to be a partner, you must have been a manager for 6 to 7 years at least, right? But it can happen sooner depending on the individual as well.
Okay, can we take the last question? Also, can you please speak a bit up because there's a mic here, so just hoping that we can catch everyone's voice, please.
Okay, I just want to ask, the first time you failed, right? How did you motivate yourself and to not push? Because like when you study, you just have the mindset of, oh, I know this fast, oh, I know this fast. How did you motivate yourself to be able to like just study?
You want us to repeat the question before we answer it to make sure it's.
So shall I reflect on it? Yeah. Okay. So the question basically is that how did I stay motivated once I have failed? Number one, I wanted to become a chartered accountant so badly, so badly. At that time, that's all that mattered, right? I wanted to become a CA. That's what I wanted to, right? And having failed, I realized there is a possibility I may not become one. There is. So it's not innate, it's not guaranteed. And that's when I spoke about it, is that I had to go and self-reflect and realize there's no such thing as it's innate, you would pass and whatnot. I had to work hard. I really did. And also having seen my fellow colleagues who have passed, right? That also motivated me. I mean, if you're in an audit firm, I'm sitting here with Nico. Nico has passed, and then one of the partners come and they congratulate Nico. And then they say, "Oh, don't worry. Next time, it's not a nice experience." And you're like, I don't want to experience that ever again. But the thought of having gone through it and not wanting to experience it again, that's what kept me motivated.